American Dad has some of the most random side stories that at times can be more interesting than the actual episodes they appear in. And in this video, I'm going to go over what was the longest running side story in the series and tell you the entire story of the Golden Gem-Encrusted Turd. I'm so happy I get to do this video, guys. You have no idea. I'm also trying to reach 1,200 subscribers if we haven't made it there already. And if you guys could help me out, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, fun game. If you guys can tell me how many times I say turd in this video in the comments, if you're right, I'll give you a shout out in the next video that I do. So it all starts with a prophecy made in ancient Egypt. Now, we don't know what all was in the prophecy, but we do know that it included that in order to destroy the artifact, you would have to send it back to the portal from which it came. They would also leave a drawing of what the portal would look like. Literally, Roger bending over and an Egyptian priest putting the artifact back up his butt. This prophecy would be handed down to religious leaders throughout history, with the Knights Turdlar secret organization being formed to prepare for the day the artifact would come forth. Fast forward to Season 1, Episode 6, Homeland Insecurity, when Steve makes Roger feel insecure that he doesn't have any superpowers, like the aliens in his video games. But Steve and Roger end up trying to run away together, and Roger makes them stop for burritos. One thing leads to another, and they end up crashing into a transformer. But the burritos end up doing their job, and Roger poops out a golden gem-encrusted turd. The best part is he still doesn't register that it is a superpower. And actually, I will touch on this towards the end of this video, but there is actually a good reason why he doesn't think that this is a superpower. But two electricians, Mike and Jim, come to fix the transformer, and they find the turd. Mike gets excited, but is immediately knocked out by Jim, who then proceeds to beat him to death with the turd. And this is the trend with the turd. It brings out the worst in whoever finds it, and creates a golem level of obsession with it immediately, as well as it having a more immediate effect depending on how selfish a person you are. If you are very selfish, the effects are instantaneous, but if you're not, you might be tempted, but you can actually beat the effects. However, like Jim would soon find out, being in possession of the turd will also cause bad things to happen to the things you care about the most, almost supernaturally. And for Jim, he would find this out after he hides Mike's body in the back of his truck. He gets pulled over, but nothing happens with the cops, so he thinks it's smooth sailing, until he calls his fiancée to give her the good news of their new fortune. But another man answers the phone, and he finds out that she is actually cheating on him. Then we jump to Season 2, Episode 3, Failure is Not a Factory, Installed Option, where Jim is drinking and driving, beating himself up over the fact that he killed Mikey for the turd, blaming the turd for what happened. He then pulls onto railroad tracks in front of a train to end his life. The police would show up, and the turd would be found by Eddie Thacker. While investigating the scene, hiding it in his pocket, he would bring it home and show it to his wife. He immediately wants to give it back to the station. Being 1 week away from retirement, he is mad that he risked it all for this thing. However, Marilyn, his wife, doesn't want to give it back, saying his pension wouldn't get them very far, but the turd could get them to Boca Raton. But Eddie sticks to his morals, saying he's always been a good cop and he's going to go out a good cop. They continue to fight about it, Eddie realizing the turd is affecting them, defusing the argument. Marilyn agrees with him and goes to make him some tea, adding poison to Eddie's and killing him. Then jumping to Season 11, Episode 3, Black Snart, A Love Story. Maryland is being executed by lethal injection for killing her husband, with her estranged son Vincent watching. She looks through the glass and her final words are, "I am sorry, son." Afterwards, he goes back to the house, sadly wandering around and refusing help in his campaign for Attorney General from a chemical dumping Wyatt Borden. But then a kid outside is hit by a car, and as he's going outside to help, he finds the turd hidden under the floorboards in his old room. Later that day, he calls Borden himself, immediately getting into business with him, with Borden saying that one day he would call him Mr. President. And he would apparently make good on that promise, as in Season 12, Episode 1, Father Days, Vincent has won the presidential nomination. However, because of all the shady dealings he's been doing, the election is actually tanking, with his running mate, Bill Surgis, confronting him and finding him staring at the turd. They fight over it, and Bill kills Vincent by sticking the turd into his mouth and then slamming his fist down on it. Bill is then killed by the Secret Service, and the turd falls from his hand and rolls under a couch, where it is found by a cleaning lady and brought to the Vatican, being hand-delivered to the Pope. Recognizing what it is, he immediately takes it to the Council of Religious Leaders at the Knights Turdlar headquarters. Here, one of them says it has returned, which sort of implies that this is not the first gem-encrusted gold turd, and that maybe the prophecy was based off of another time Roger came to Earth in Egyptian times. It could also have been one of Roger's species, since Roger didn't crash in Roswell until 1947. So the council is discussing how to get rid of the turd in season 15, episode 21, 300. The Pope is saying that the artifact corrupts and twists the human mind, and once it is destroyed, the world will finally be at peace. He says he will take it to America, having tracked Roger down in Langley Falls, and return it to the portal. The portal being Roger's ass. But the turd gets to the council with them all killing each other. All of this is seen by a food dash delivery girl who handles it extremely well, maybe a little too well, and she just picks up the turd. When two knights tell her to hand it over, she just kind of does, showing them that she is pure of heart and thus unaffected by the turd's power. They then task her to take it to America and put it back into Roger to save the world, and she actually agrees. I mean, what are you going to do, right? It's a free trip to America. All you got to do is shove this thing up an alien's butt. So she tries the Smith's house, but Roger has moved out. Finding him in a junkyard, she shoves it up his butt, splitting him into 300 pieces and turning the world into a utopia where everything is good. Roger, however, would manage to get his mouth shipped to the Smiths, where he explains to them that the Knights Turdlar have spread all 300 of his pieces to the most inaccessible corners of the world, so no one could rebuild him and return the world to chaos. The Smiths were actually bored with Utopia, probably because they spent so much time around Roger, and with the help of Roger's son Grogu, the Smiths tracked down all of his pieces, finding the last piece, Roger's butthole, on Family Feud, where they had to win it, and they actually do. So once it is won and put back on Roger, the turd actually falls out, and the world would immediately go back to how it was, with Steve Harvey grabbing it and going mad. Stan would then knock him out, and Stan would throw his jacket over it, telling the family not to look at it and that he was going to destroy it. However, you cannot just destroy it, per the prophecy. As it turns out, Stan just wanted it for himself, driving away. So 20 years would pass, with the family all becoming obsessed with the turd, for ultimately culminating with Steve, Haley, Stan, and Francine all dying. This would make Roger cry with his tear falling on the turd and activate a power that no one knew about, where one of the gems would act as a window to the night he pooped it out. Roger would tell his past self to hide the turd where no one would find it, so he hides it in a claw machine in Boca Raton, where many kids would immediately become obsessed with winning it, but none of them would be able to. This is actually oddly genius, but also just completely cruel, because one, claw machines just suck. You can hardly ever win anything out of them. They would never be able to pick up a chunk of solid gold, but all those kids would waste money trying. But it would actually eventually be found again by Jesus' forces in the battle for Boca Raton in Season 5, Episode 9, Rapture's Delight, foreshadowing the events of 300. Jesus and Stan need Roger's spaceship, and he says the ship's subfusion engines run on precious metals and crystalline minerals, so unless you can poop out gem-encrusted gold, you're out of luck. Jesus then gives Roger the turd. So Roger literally poops out his own rocket fuel, which is why he didn't register it as a superpower at the time. Also, Roger has a lot of what we would consider powers that are actually just a part of his biology, so it sort of kind of makes sense that he wouldn't at the time register this as being something abnormal. But that is actually it. That is the complete story of the Golden Turd. Roger crashes at the end and we never see him leave, and that is the farthest canonical timeline we have for the turd. The only downside of the story is we never really get an explanation why or how the turd affects the entire planet. My only theory is that it was kind of the last thing preventing world peace. Like, the Knights Turdlar had already found and did away with everything else, and this was the last link in the chain keeping evil in the world. But that's also just my own theory. It could also just be possible that since it's actually an organic matter, not just gold, it just affects people differently. We have no real way of knowing. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And while you're down there, please remember, count how many times I said turd in this video. I'll give you a shout out. And hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you never miss another video from me. And I will see you guys in the next video.